cyanide I discovered was a plan an agreement between Israel and the US administration. When the agreement was reached, which was way back in a year before the Six-Day War in 1966, people from Israel and the American administration started planning for the war, and it involved them having a pretext for doing it. So the Liberty was sent to that part of the Eastern Mediterranean, right into the middle of the war zone, to be a target of some sort, to give America a pretext for launching a war on Egypt.
Had Terry Halbardia not gotten the SOS out and every last man was killed and Cairo was nuked, then Israel would come out looking like a good guy. Nobody would ever know the difference. But they had to kill every last one of us to make that strategy work. And they failed at that.
But people were sworn to secrecy. The naval inquiry is regarded by many as incomplete.
You asked McNamara about those questions. I'm not going to answer those.
I am not saying anything about the Liberty, period.
I like to think that really, after what happened to the USS Liberty and all the skullduggery that was going on behind the scenes, Israel had America by the scruff of the neck. Such was the need to cover up what America had got up to during the Six-Day War, that Israel was in a position to influence, could even say blackmail America into becoming the main supplier of arms and aid. And of course, it's just mushroomed ever since. And Israel still depends hugely on American aid.
The Liberty is a microcosm of this much bigger problem in the Middle East. And Americans need to know what happened. The story has to be told.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
General Washington, in his farewell address to the nation, warned us about alliances with a foreign power, and at that time, America was enamored with a Marquis de Lafayette of France, who had given huge treasure trove to the fledgling American government. And there are streets of Lafayette, cities of Lafayette across America as a result of America being enamored with the French during the Revolution. Here we are enamored with another foreign government, no longer France, but another foreign government. And they, in effect, control us.
Well, we won't defeat Zionism controlling America until you accept the truth of what has happened in the past. We've pretty much uncovered the liberty, but we haven't achieved justice. Nobody in Washington will accept the fact that it was a deliberate attack with an attempt to eliminate us. The Zionists are an enemy of the United States, and they've subverted the policy of the United States.
The cover-up of the USS Liberty, it was because of our involvement in the USS Liberty with Israel. I think Israel's the 51st state.
I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel.
If I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
To think that we are still providing monetary support and military support to a country that's telling us what to do. I mean, on a daily basis. It's crazy.
There are certain people that don't want anything negative about Israel to be told whatsoever because it's offensive. Because it then flies in the face of this relationship, this holy relationship we're supposed to have with the Israelis.
Right now, President Donald Trump's commitment to Israel is sacrosanct. Congress's commitment to Israel is sacrosanct. We don't take Israel for granted. We know that this special relationship is central to our national security.
Israel and America are connected now and forever. I simply declare to be anti-Semitic is to be anti-American.
Liberty veterans have been accused numerous times of being anti-Semitic. Excuse me, but that word anti-Semitic gets thrown around a lot just as an excuse. We just want our own government to properly investigate while some of us are still alive.
That pledge is proudly honored in this Congress, where support for Israel remains ironclad and bipartisan.
Despite our differences, we're proudly united in support of America's relationship with the State of Israel.
This past December, the six of us traveled to Israel together with Apex Education Foundation. And you are once again bombarded with stories about how America's divided, how Democrats and Republicans don't work together. Remember this picture, and remember that you all made it possible.
And we will fight to protect the Jewish people here in America and in the state of Israel. In America and in Israel, Am Yisrael Chai, the people Israel live. Thank you. God bless you. AIPAC, keep up the great work.
Thousands of letters I wrote to Congress, literally thousands. And all of them come back the same way, from the Navy Department, the National Security Agency, CIA, FBI, every congressman and senator I could write to, all of them come back the same. Case closed, mistaken identity, we're very sorry. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I mean, if America knew they tried to sink one of our ships deliberately.
How many human lives have been changed or killed protecting the Zionist state of Israel?
I mean, you know, you're killing American citizens and getting away with it. Let that sink in.
And take everything they gave us.
90% of the country doesn't know what the liberty is, was, or what happened to it. And until we can get 100 million people aware of it and energetic about it, it'll be covered up because it convicts a president of treason.
There's no question that Israel killed my shipmates and tried to kill me and wanted to kill me. And there's no question in my mind that Lyndon Baines Johnson wanted me dead. I want people to realize that. I'd love for people to truly understand the kind of person that Lyndon Johnson and his cronies were.
We were doing a nuclear loading exercise, which all the attack aircraft that carried nuclear weapons, they brought the weapons up and loaded them aboard to mate them with them, make sure that all the wiring was okay, and then took the weapons off and put them back down below. It was during that evolution when we heard that the Liberty was under attack. As soon as the Liberty was under attack, we launched our ready cap.
Stop working down, full power to catch it. 99. Stop working. 65, you're being fed back for a capture.
We launched, and they gave us a vector to the ship. First thing we did when we got off, go ahead and check all the weapon systems. Our radar was working. We tuned the missiles, make sure that they were all ready, and all I had to do was hit the on switch and you could fire them. So we wanted to make sure that we were ready for whatever we might come up against. As we started out, we continually said, okay, what is the threat? Where is the ship? Who are we going against? What does the enemy look like? Are we going against 10 MiGs, or is this just a one aircraft that's in the wrong place? We didn't feel that there'd be any Israelis there because they're on our side, so we didn't feel that we'd be up against them. So we were looking at the Egyptians and the Russians. So those are the two countries that had aircraft that we would be up against fighting. We continually said, okay, what is the threat? Where is the ship? How far is the ship? What is the status of the ship? What is the attack? Who's attacking it? What type of aircraft? And so on, which they did not know. This conversation went back and forth until we got the word from the Sixth Fleet to stand down and return to base. Well, we kept saying, well, is the ship okay? What we're coming back now is over. Are they okay? Do we need to do anything else? We're up here, we're on the way. They said, no, return to base, return to base. We were very discouraged, that what is going on? What levels of government are in cahoots with somebody else?
So just remember, the words we had, help is on the way. And we are all saying this. When is it coming? Who's coming? What's going to happen?
We couldn't understand why hour after hour went by and we never had a flyover. Nobody came by.
It looks like we were, the things were arranged in such a way that, yes, the USS Liberty would be left alone to encounter whatever happened.
For some reason, they wanted 294 Americans dead.
Hi, everyone. We're a little early. I am sure Phil and Michael will be here momentarily. I wanted to start early. I cut some of that. It was about 13 minutes from 4 different parts in a series. You really have to go, and you can get it free on demand online. It's called Sacrificing Liberty. It's 4 parts, each about an hour, but you really have to watch it. It's hard. Some of it's really hard to watch, but it's important that as an American, you know the story. And I'm very honored that we have USS Liberty survivor with us today, Bryce Lockwood, whom I met in March at an Eisenhower Media event at the National Press Club that Ray McGovern put together. And kind of interesting that I knew nothing about the USS Liberty. It happened a couple of years before I was born, but of course we don't learn this stuff in school. And I actually first learned about it from Ray McGovern. So anyway, it's a story that, oh, here we go. Phil is here, great. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wing it a little bit on the legal questions because Karen Ortiz had an emergency and couldn't come. She's a former judge. And so I scrambled around to see if I could find anyone else that could answer legal questions. But we'll have to, I don't know, maybe Matt, we discussed a little bit, maybe you can bring things up with Judge Knapp. And we need to start, I think, posing these questions about how do we define treason, and is our enemy and who is our ally? So without further ado, why don't we, Bryce, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself? And Bryce is running for office in Missouri.
I am Bryce Lockwood. I am running for the 137th Legislative District, state of Missouri, which is eastern Greene County, covers a portion of Springfield, Missouri, Missouri's third largest city. My district is mostly rural. Portions of 3 towns, Fairgrove, Missouri, Stratford, Missouri, and a portion of Rogersville, Missouri. I was the only Marine survivor aboard the USS Liberty.
And do you want to, I don't want to make you retell the whole story, but maybe just some basics. How many were on the ship? How many were killed that day? June 8th, 1967.
Liberty was an intelligence collection ship. Satellites were pretty rudimentary back in 1967. Pretty much the only way to get the information you wanted from foreign governments was to get pretty close. And where sea was involved, ships were used. Liberty was the most advanced spy ship of her day. We had aboard her a UNIVAC 500, which at the time was the world's largest mobile computer. Linguists, we had several linguists. I would have to guess, see, my watch section had, there were 5 of us with 3 civilian advisors, 3 watch sections, so it'd be 15 plus 18 linguists altogether, various languages. My language was Russian. Most of the linguists that were involved were actually sub-Saharan African linguists. That was Liberty's primary cruise, was up and down the west coast of Africa, listening in on Soviet-Cuban involvement in sub-Saharan Africa in the 1960s. And Liberty was pulled off that problem and sent with due haste to the Middle East for the impending 6 days war. Is that?
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting part of the story, because when you watch the docuseries, you hear this, that it was kind of it was unusual that they just had you go really quickly over into the Mediterranean. Is that right?
Yeah, there was another intelligence collection vessel, which is in the era of the USS Valdez. We actually passed her en route while we were heading that way. The Valdez was almost entirely manned by CIA crew. Salaries, of course, are much higher than they were with military personnel. That may have had something to do with it. Kill them as cheaply as possible. Out of a crew of 294, there were 3 civilians they were all Arabic linguists from National Security Agency. 3 of us Marines. The other 2 Marines were both Arabic linguists. My language was Russian. Out of the 294, there were 208 Purple Hearts awarded. There were 34 killed. 25 of those were killed in the torpedo explosion, which was in the intelligence collection compartments.
So if you didn't catch any of the video I played at the beginning, really go watch the whole series. But there's a little bit there where they talk about how you were sworn to secrecy, or how everything was kind of shut down. So do you want to talk about that, how that transpired?
My situation was a little different. I was on temporary duty at Rota, Spain. When Liberty was taken off her cruise up and down the west coast of Africa, she had to refuel and restore food supplies, etc. She was sent to Rota, Spain for that purpose. That was where 3 of us Marine linguists and 3 of the civilians from the National Security Agency joined her.
Okay. So for people that don't know this story, how do you start to, in the docuseries, I think almost every one of you said it, it just like people don't believe it at first, like that our own government did this. What key things would you say like really give away the fact that this was a purposeful attack?
Well, it was actually many years afterwards. I was pretty naive about the whole situation, I suppose. It was many years later I found out that James Angleton, who was the number 2 individual in the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, was also an agent for the Israeli Mossad. We believe that we were set up by our own government. The entire U.S. nuclear force was on full alert the morning of June 8th, 1967. That came out in Peter Hunem's book, Operation Cyanide, where he actually interviewed crew members of B-52s, Beale Air Force Base, Marysville, California, fully loaded with atomic weapons, fully fueled, sitting at the end of the runway, engines idling, before Liberty was attacked. We think that we were set up by our own government, sink the ship, kill everyone aboard it, get us involved on the side of Israel. Thankfully, the Israeli Navy was not nearly as good shots with their torpedoes as the Air Force was with their rockets. 5 torpedoes were fired. 3 motor torpedo boats were dispatched. It's a classic example of wedge formation. Each of those torpedo boats would have 2 torpedoes apiece, so that would have been 6. 5 were fired. Apparently, one of them never even left a torpedo tube. One struck just forward of the midships in the area where I was. I was actually less than 10 feet from it, looking at it when it blew. The torpedo struck on supporting flange of a major I-beam, which is part of the superstructure of the ship. Had it struck almost anywhere else, 6 inches left, 6 inches right, the ship would have been ripped in half.
I have one more question related to that, and then I'm going to toss it to the other veterans here. I saw in the documentary that they were attacking the life rafts as well, right? And then is there something about one of the life rafts is in a museum or something?
I cannot prove that, but it's a story that I heard.
Okay.
We had gotten off with Mayday. One of the radio men figured out that when they were shooting rockets at us, they couldn't jam our distress frequencies because that jamming would disturb the flight of the rockets. During that brief period, they couldn't jam us, and it was during that period that Mayday went out. I happened to be in the radio room when it actually was sent out. When that was acknowledged, the shooting stopped. I saw some sailors taking 3 inflatable life rafts through the radio room, heard the splash as they threw them over the side. There was a line or a rope attached to keep them from floating away. I heard a revving of diesel engines and more machine gun fire. One of those sailors came back through the radio room and said, "I don't know what we're going to do now. They riddled our only means of survival." All of our life rafts had been napalmed. We had no way off, except those 3 inflatable life rafts. 2 of them were destroyed in a machine gun fire. The third one, apparently one of the projectiles had severed that rope. The torpedo boat came in, picked it up, clearly labeled U.S. Navy, and I understand that life raft and the ship's wheel of the torpedo boat that fired the fatal torpedo are on display at the Israeli Naval Museum in Haifa.
Yeah, why would they do that if it was an accident? Very strange.
Accident was an excuse. I mean, they couldn't, unless they knew who we were, they could not jam our distress frequencies, period. Every protocol in international law, which was designed to prevent such a so-called accident, was violated by the Israelis. They were using unmarked aircraft, violation of international law. Machine gun or life rafts, violation of international law. And ironically, that came about as a result of Nazi wolf packs machine gunning life rafts of refugees during the Second World War. Well, who was refugees? Many of them were future Israeli citizens. And now here they are violating that same protocol. Jamming distress frequencies is a violation of international law. So there's 3 right there. The ship was clearly marked GTR-5, which stands for General Technical Research. Pretty much every combatant ship at sea has a copy, the last edition of Jane's All the World Fighting Ships. The USS Liberty was included in there, where the ship was built, by whom it was built, how she was powered, what her armaments were, what the complement was. All in that book, James All the World Fighting Ships, 1967 edition. The Israeli torpedo boat should have had copies of those aboard each of those border torpedo boats. Clearly flying the American flag, it was shot down. That same flag was raised up again. It was shot down a second time. The third flag that was raised was the holiday flag, which was the largest we had aboard ship. There was a breeze blowing. The flag would have been fully unfurled. The Israelis claimed they couldn't see the flag because of smoke. Well, there wasn't any smoke until they dropped napalm on it, which is their own smoke. They claimed they mistook us for the Egyptian ship El Qasir. El Qasir was a World War I horse transport. Her only armament was a 4-inch muzzle-loading gun. She had not left port for 20 years, was waiting to be cut up for scrap. Incidentally, Egyptian ships are painted black with hull markings in Arabic script. U.S. ships are painted gray with hull markings in English lettering and numerals. I suppose you could claim the Israeli pilots were colorblind, but I'm colorblind and I could tell the difference between black and gray.
Wow. Okay, Matt or Phil want to jump in here? You both, I know, Matt, you were a Marine. Phil, I'm sorry, I don't remember. It wasn't Navy, but...
No, I'm Army.
Army, okay.
I wouldn't hold that against you.
Well, thanks. If Matt doesn't mind, I'll start. I've got, since we're just a week after, or a little more than a week after Memorial Day, I want to share with you two how I feel about Memorial Day, and I think it applies here. I get so angry every Memorial Day, and I don't have any family members who were killed in battle or relatives or friends. But just the idea that the memory, supposedly honoring the memory of those who were lost, is whitewashing this sort of thing and helping the federal government, our federal government, whitewash this and hide this from people and make people feel so good about what our federal government does and what the military does that they then have the most difficult time believing that these sorts of things happen, despite the fact that there's not even plausible deniability in who, how, and why the USS Liberty was fired upon. It just, I'm a wreck every Memorial Day over that, and I guess that's my point. And also that it's amazing that the Israeli government has a museum piece now about this. what I've ascertained over the last few years is that the American public, and probably the world public to a certain extent too, but certainly the American public, is so easy to fool that the regime doesn't really even have to try anymore. That they can just say whatever. They don't have to explain why Building 7 fell. They don't have to talk about the USS Liberty. They don't have to talk about all these different things, because all they have to do is even generate some story that isn't plausible at all, and the vast majority of the American public will swallow it and ignore the evidence right before their eyes. It really, really upsets me as a veteran, as a libertarian, as a person. It's galling.
The corruption, the grift of the current administration is so blatant, and yet some 27% of the American population still believe this bullshit. Excuse me.
And they all are. I think they all have been for a long, long time. Different degrees. I think this one's taken the cake in terms of how brazen it is. But I think all along, the American public has demonstrated a willingness to swallow whatever bullshit, whatever politician in charge tells them, so that they can live in peace and suppress any sort of responsibility or guilt for how they've been voting or what they've been ignoring. And I think all four of us, I'm sure, once you see what's true, once you see what you've seen, you can't unsee it. But the easiest thing for the American public to do, for the most part, is to not see it, and that lets them sleep at night. Anyway, I better get down and let Matt talk.
I won't play the Meltzer quote, but you know what one I'm referring to, I think, where he talks about the denial and why do people do this? Because if they wake up to it, well, then they have to do something. And it's just easier to not, because it's hard, because doing something is hard. But yes, please, Matt.
Well, thanks for having me join you, Kelly and Phil. It's good to see you guys. And Bryce, it's a real pleasure and an honor to meet you. I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps, 1998 to 2008. I'm pretty certain I never heard about the USS Liberty. Never heard about it. And then more so, the whole... Well, let me just say this, for people who aren't aware, Bryce received a Silver Star for his actions that day on the USS Liberty. The Silver Star is the third highest award in the U.S. military, U.S. Marine Corps. And if you go and you read that citation for Bryce's action that day, you see something very curious. There's no mention of Israel whatsoever in that citation. And so, you're going to say something, Bryce?
It's kind of ironic. Thursday, I'm supposed to be presented with a proclamation from the governor of Missouri, and there is no mention of the attacking country in that either.
I mean, I'd have to imagine if we went through the thousands upon thousands of combat awards presented by the United States, say just, how many of them leave out, right? Particularly when I could imagine if you were receiving an award and you were on you're in fighting across Europe in 1945, right? Where it's okay, it's kind of, the action was in Germany. It's kind of obvious he was fighting against Nazi Germany, right? Or the award is for action on Iwo Jima or Okinawa. Okay, everyone knows that was against the Japanese. But here, in this case, I mean, so things like that stand out over and over again when you read about what happened on the Liberty, when you talk to people about what happened on the Liberty, and in all the explanations for why it could have just been the fog of war, fade away. It's like you pull that string, Bryce, and it's just the thread keeps coming. Right. Or if you want to use the onion analogy, you peel one layer and then there's something else there. And for all the specious reasons that are given as to why it was simply an accident, there are, explanations and counter arguments that explain how it couldn't be an accident. I mean, you're telling me that those the skippers of those three torpedo boats didn't know what every ship in the Egyptian fleet looked like? I mean, come on. they would have known exactly the entire composition of the Egyptian Navy. That was their job. And it was one of the few navies they would ever have to deal with, if the only navy they had to deal with. I don't know if the Lebanese had a navy at that point, but you know what I mean? So this whole thing is just it's just so incredible. And it's so extraordinary. You know, I think the question that comes to mind most of all, and I think that many people have, is why did they do this? You know, what to the best of your understanding, what were the purposes? You said that the Strategic Air Command was on alert that day, and the idea of you getting the U.S. to enter into the war on the side of Israel. But could you flesh that out more as to your understanding as to why this attack occurred?
Well, President Johnson came on the air while we were under attack and said, "Get those aircraft back. I will not have my allies embarrassed." Now, we didn't know who was attacking us. How did Lyndon Johnson know? There are several books out about Lyndon Johnson, his history, how very sympathetic he was toward Israel, the establishment of the state. In fact, 1947, when the fight against the Palestinians for the establishment of a Jewish state was ongoing, there were large boxes labeled Texas grapefruit sent to Israel, courtesy of Johnson Ranch, Johnson City, Texas. It wasn't grapefruit. You can imagine. Flash forward, 1967, nothing was done about the attack on the Liberty. Our congressman said nothing, did nothing, violation of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8, investigate acts of piracy on the high seas. Now here we are in 2025, 2026. Israel realizes they can do whatever they want. The U.S. Congress will fund it and say nothing. Gaza, totally destroyed, 70,000 documented, killed, probably twice that many buried in the rubble, over 1 million left homeless, starving. And now here is Israel doing the same thing to Lebanon. Hundreds of innocent people killed, women, children, whole villages destroyed, leveled. Over 1 million Lebanese homeless, starving. And we've done nothing except provide the bombs.
I just want to say it's this issue, and when October 7th happened, I knew very little. Matt, you may remember that. I really didn't know enough. You went over there, I think, sometime during that year when we were doing candidates for Assange, and I listened to you, and I listened to Ray McGovern, who'd been over there with Veterans for Peace, and I learned about it. And you, like Phil, like you said, you can't, once you see things, you can't unsee them. And I think that, you know, the saying of like, what would you have done in the Holocaust? Well, you know, you're doing it now. I've stopped like self-censoring myself so much. Like, I think we do that because like the instance about Vault 7 and cars came up, and I just repeated something Afshin Ratanzi said once on Randy's show about a particular journalist that was killed having his car slammed into a tree. We don't have evidence of that, but he sure was uncovering things that were making very powerful people unhappy. So I think, you know, I know that's one thing I've done is I'm trying to help third party and independent candidates. And I don't censor myself as much anymore. I don't have that fear of like, oh, people are going to say I have a tinfoil hat on, because being silent is how we got where we are. What do you think, Bryce?
Exactly.
So, Phil, do you want to please
Yeah,
jump in?
Bryce mentioned us providing the bombs. If you remember, and this sickened me when it happened too. We had members of our government over there signing bombs.
Yes.
How sick. But I think we graduated from the era of the USS Liberty and before, where that there had to be a false flag, to now all they need to do, they being our government and their captive media, all they need to do is tell us something, us, the American public, and we'll believe it. They told us last year that that Iran had a nuclear weapon capability, and then they told us they had destroyed it, and now they tell us again that they've got it again, and it's just so easy that they don't even need to do much at all to get compliance from the public. And once the public is compliant, or actually before the public is compliant, Congress is compliant, because that's why they're there. So it's just become incredibly easy for as long as people are fed and entertained, they won't question what's going on. And I have some very dear friends who are veterans, and others who won't speak out or become activists or whatever because they're comfortable. And they say to me, I see what you're saying, Phil, but I can't engage it because my whole life would change, and I've got a wife and kids and a career, and I'd have to leave all that and whatever. And that's, I didn't have to do that. That's not where I was coming from when I first got involved. But it either happens to you, like it happened to Bryce, or you make a decision at some point to engage it. But most Americans don't. And that's the real challenge, is to find a way to make them care.
Right. Well, you're running for office, Bryce, so I'm assuming that you have some hope that things can change. Or
not. Or maybe you don't.
I mean, a lot of
maybe
people
you're just sucking it out of you right now. I don't know. Are we helping Bryce, or are we hurting your enthusiasm for campaigning?
I ran for the same position 2 years ago, and I have to confess, I had a lot of women who were helping by writing postcards and making phone calls and knocking on doors. At 86 years old, it's a little difficult, and I have some health issues. At 86 years old, you're going to have health issues. It's difficult to get around. And but I got 29.6% of the vote last time around in a very, very red district. And this time, I have some union folks that are chipping in. Teamsters Union today gave me a check, the largest that they could, for a donation. And firefighters met with the president of the Firefighters Union 3 weeks ago. He was going to make a recommendation to his general membership to authorize vote in my favor. That would be a big help, because a lot of those fellows would be out there putting signs out. It may only be one vote, but it's one vote in the Missouri legislature to try and correct what's going on. Right now, we have a supermajority Republican Party controlling both the governor's mansion, the legislature, and the Senate. And until we can get a few more legislative votes in order to break that supermajority, they just do what they want. Right now, Governor Kehoe has put through a proposal authorized by the legislature, comes up for a vote in August to do away with the Missouri income tax. Well, revenue's got to come from somewhere for police, fire protection, maintenance of highways and bridges. Where's it going to come from? The only place it can come from is to increase the sales tax. Well, who pays the sales tax? And it's those who can least afford it that will be paying the largest percentage of their budget supporting state budget. That's wrong.
So you said it's a very red district. I guess I want to bring up that it does seem that the Republican Party and the base that supported Trump, like it seems very split. Like we often see on the Democrat side, it is older and the more super conservative. Do you think there are a lot of people disillusioned with that may have voted for him because they thought because they fell for the anti-war rhetoric and things. Do you think there might possibly be some people that in your red district that would consider voting for you because they're unhappy with?
I'm sure, yes. You don't see nearly 2 years ago when I was going door to door, you'd see a lot of Trump flags around. You don't see nearly as many now.
Yeah. Right. And I think I said this last week, but I do just want to point out with the Massey race, which is the biggest AIPAC funded race for promoting Ed Galrain, that I just want to point out again that Kentucky is a closed primary, and the deadline to change your registration was the end of December. And there were some, I think it was 60,000 between the 80,000 between independent, libertarian, and other that were shut out. So I actually see that as very hopeful because, probably a lot more people would have voted for him. It was, 55-45 or something. But because of the closed primary, and that kind of goes to show how the system is set up. As you're always saying, Phil, but the system is set up against third parties and independents. But I don't know. I think there is hope. Younger people especially, Gen Z is like 56% independent. And I think they're not having it. And as you said, Phil, about being comfortable, young people they're not comfortable. So maybe that's part of the impetus for the change. But I saw hope in that. It's terrible they lost to this, AIPAC funded guy, but I still saw hope in that race. And I see hope in what he and Ro Khanna are pairing up again now because this whole thing about the NDAAs, 2027 NDAA, where they're going to combine the forces, the U.S. military and the IDF, is terrifying. But we have to stop that. It can't continue. Anyway. Anybody?
Bryce, when did you first speak out? I think probably a lot of people are curious about that. So this happens. You're essentially told to keep quiet about it. And when did you say, I'm not going to keep quiet about this any longer? And what caused you? What triggered that? What caused you to say, hey, I'm not going to be quiet any longer?
I was in Bible college 1980, I think it was. Christmas holiday, homiletics class after holidays over with in January, waiting for class to begin. One of the classmates comes in and says, Bryce, were you on a ship was torpedoed? And I said, how did you know about that? Well, he was from Texas. He'd been down Texas visiting family over the holidays. He was on his way back late at night, listening to NPR. Used to be a program on called Radio Reader. And they were reading James Ennis's book, Assault on the Liberty. And it just happened to be the portion torpedo attack. And my name was mentioned. And I had accepted a position in Key West, Florida, as an assistant pastor of the church there. And there was a librarian for the Key West library that attended her church. And I asked her about the book, and she said, yes, we have that book. But she said, there's a waiting list about 6 months long. I said, well, fine, at least put me on the waiting list. Well, when it came available, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I wrote a letter to Random House, New York City, which was the publisher wanting to contact the author, James Ennis. They sent me back a nice letter saying that I could not contact the author directly, but they would forward my information to him. And almost immediately comes this big packet of information. There had been newsletter that was published by the survivors, which I was totally unaware of, full of back issues of all those newsletters, names and addresses of all the survivors, and I immediately got on the phone and started dialing. And it wasn't terribly long after that I just started speaking out publicly. Probably the biggest one was the one that Kelly and I discussed earlier, Ray McGovern. I had a neighbor that told me that he was coming to speak at South Avenue Christian Church in Springfield and wanted to know if I'd be interested. So yeah, I'll be interested. Went down, and Ray mentioned the attack on the ship, and I sort of casually raised my hand that I was a survivor. He wanted me to come up and speak on it, and I guess the rest is history.
I'm actually going to see Ray for lunch on Thursday, actually. So I will pass along your regards. You know, just yeah, you know, and the other thing is when you're out talking to people now as you're campaigning, or when you and was last cycle 2024, was that the first time you ran for office?
No, actually, 2 years prior to that, I ran for Congress, but that was in a primary. There were 3 that ran on the Democratic ticket for the primary for the 7th Congressional District, Southwest Missouri, 13 counties altogether. I came in last. Kind of ironic, the lady that won the Democratic nomination actually ran a bakery in Joplin, Missouri. We're having a banquet at Missouri Southern State University. Eleanor Roosevelt commemorative banquet. And she was a keynote speaker and got up and mentioned that she had 32 weddings that she had to provide cakes for, and she was just not going to be able to campaign. Well, guess what happened? She got stomped and all that. Well, surprise, surprise.
That's great. Well, I just wanted.
I just had in terms of what percent of people, just a guess, because you know, just a rough guess, what percent of people have ever heard the U.S.'s liberty, Bryce?
Oh, less than 1%, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm surprised all the time. I was at a gun show. I actually getting rid of my guns. I guess I'm becoming a peacenik in my old age. But some years ago, I was at a gun show, and this kid that had just graduated from high school came up, and I had to display my Liberty materials there, and I was shocked that he knew about it. And every once in a while it happens. A number of years ago, I was at Lowe's paint counter. I'm wearing my jacket. It was wintertime. Wearing my jacket. Remember the USS Liberty. I hear this voice behind me. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. I turn around. This guy had eyes as big as saucers. Said, "Were you on the Liberty?" I said, "Yeah, I was the only Marine survivor." He just couldn't believe it. He knew about it. Just every once in a while it happens.
Yeah, I think that's pretty typical with things now. It's like, yes, Phil's right. The masses of people still are clueless, but then there are more and more people sprouting up. I mean, and I think that's another bit of hope. You know, what, like you said about Ray coming there, and tells you, you know, Ray he never stops. He's always on all these shows.
I'd like to have his energy.
I know. I couldn't keep up with the two of you that day.
Well, I mean, what's so interesting to me, Bryce, you know, kind of flashbacks, you know, Kelly and I are about the same age, and same with Phil, right? You know, and, you know, the flashbacks to how life used to be when you talked about, you heard about this book and you had to wait 6 months to get it from the library. That's the way things worked, right? Now you would have just ordered a copy off of Amazon and would have been there.
2 days later, you got it.
Yeah. And I get stuff. I wake up in the morning, it's sitting on my porch, you know? And, I mean, so things are just so different now in terms of the ability for information to be shared. And that's what I think gives me the most hope, is this type of forum, right? This ability to share information as well as social media. And the idea, kind of, I think what Phil was getting to as well, but the idea that, you know, such an event, it couldn't be hidden now. right? So, something like this couldn't be a false flag like this couldn't be carried out away because people are too aware. And so I think maybe that's why they've given up the trappings, the theater, right, the performance of such things, and is going, as Phil said, they'll go and sign the bombs and not even be apologetic about it. But I think that for me is something that is just so amazing. The ability of people to not know about things like this still.
It is so puzzling to me. I mean, here's these congressmen signing these bombs. Do they not realize innocent people are being killed? Do they not care? Can it all be about money and power? Where's your morality?
I think there are too many steps removed. That's the issue, I guess.
Right? Well, and I'd argue that they're there precisely because they don't have morality, right? I mean, they don't make it through the gauntlet of getting on the ballot, being approved by their party apparatus until they're willing to be absolutely prostituted to the goals of their party and to their donors.
Prostituted. That's a good
so. This
term.
Is what we get. We don't really have a choice.
And many of them are true. Many of them are true believers. I mean, when you look at members of Congress in terms of, say, with regards to their pro-Israel sympathies, many of them are that way simply because of the reality of the Israel lobby. Many of them are that way because they just don't know any other way. But others are that way because they really do believe in Israel. Look at the politicians that were at that Israel Day parade over the weekend in New York City. Some of them probably there because it's good politics for them to be there. They're afraid they're going to get in trouble with the Israel lobby. But for many of them, they really do believe in the idea of Zionism. They are, Chuck Schumer is a Zionist. Yeah. Joe Biden was a Zionist. I don't think they needed any campaign contributions. They really did believe in Zionism.
That was a small crowd, though. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's growing, though. One of the things you guys might not know about me is that I've got a master's in theology, and we looked at the phenomenon of Zionism and where it came from. And a lot of people in America, evangelical right-wing circles, have been led to believe that what Darby started in the 19th century was the way it's always been, and that there's this existing covenant with the Jewish people that is clearly refuted by Christ's own words and Paul's own words in the New Testament, but they still believe it. So to your point, Matt, that they're true believers, it's hard to tell when somebody like Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz seem to be such good at acting, whether they're convinced us that they're true believers and that's how they're getting paid by AIPAC and that's why they're there, or they are true believers and that's why they're there and getting paid by AIPAC. It doesn't really matter for our purposes why. It is a heresy. Clearly confirmable heresy, but it is a reason that people use and can be fooled by this idea that we need to support Israel no matter what, which is nutty.
Kelly and I had a discussion before you gentlemen came on. I don't even remember where it came from now, but in 2005, Stephen Rosen, then a senior official with AIPAC, sat down to dinner with Jeffrey Goldberg, then of the New Yorker magazine. Quote, "You see this napkin? In 24 hours, AIPAC could have the signatures of 70 senators on this napkin," unquote.
Well, you know what? We're at the top of the hour. I mean, I can keep going. If anybody needs to go, we can wrap it up. But since you said that, this is the perfect time, I think. We don't have many people watching, but I like to put lots of clips out, and I tend to get more views on the clips later. I will be promoting this. So this is the USS Liberty napkin, and we're going to make it into a petition of getting people to sign this napkin, well, virtually, a petition that I would like to get to Massey and Ro Khanna and challenge them, and also we'll get as many of the candidates that we've had on. I think we're up to 32 now on the No Peasants broadcast, so get as many of, because they've all signed the candidate pledge that say they're against taking any AIPAC money. I know that we can at least have those 32 people sign it. So I'm hoping to get this going. I did actually speak to Phil Turney earlier, and I think, his appearance on Candace Owens' show helped. Of course, she has a particular audience that might not cross over, but he did say something about, they're trying to do similar things as to put pressure on members of Congress now. But I think right now, before Massey is out, we need to put pressure on him and Ro Khanna, because they've been the only ones to really speak up about anything that's considered anti-Israel. But also for next week, I'm not sure what day we're doing yet, but there's a libertarian that's going to be running, or is running, in Massey's place. So like I said, I do believe that there's hope there because of that closed primary. So he'll be on. I'm not sure who else next week, but and we'll just keep going. I'm going to try to get every candidate we have from here on out to sign the USS Liberty napkin to pressure Congress to investigate. Because as you said, Bryce, and that was probably, I think, the first clip I made from your talk at the press club, was about its article. Wait, say that again. Which of the Constitution that they should have to investigate?
Article 1, Section 8.
Section 8. Okay.
I'm not sure that I can quote it exactly, but it's piracies committed on the high seas.
Yes. Okay. I think probably what I'll do then, if I can pull this up really quickly, I will play your clip that I made from the press club on our way out. And I just...
Oh, yes, the rest of that was violations of the laws of nations.
Right.
That's also in that same sentence.
Okay. Okay. Great. So let me get this up. Sorry, I didn't have it ready to go. And I just want to encourage everybody, please go and watch the docuseries. You'll be shocked, but it will inspire you to tell others about it. So, okay, let's see. I may not be able to get this pulled up right now. Maybe I might replay, actually, Bryce, I think I'll replay the clip, the 13 minutes I had played at the beginning, because I don't think we had that many people watching. So I'm going to play that. And the clip of you from the press club is up on the No Peasants Instagram page and on Twitter. So, okay, we will go out with this. Sorry, hang on just a moment.
Matthew, Phil, it's been a pleasure.
Same, Bryce. We're behind you for what it's worth. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, Bryce. What an honor to be here with you, and thank you for continuing to speak out as you do.
Well, I'm kind of crazy. Excuse me.
Well, then you're in the right place. You're in the right place.
I know that's how I felt. I was like, oh my goodness, because when I met you and I was driving you and Ray over to the press club, it's just such an honor to meet you. It really is. And I just, anybody that can speak up the way that you do, it takes a lot of guts, and I know you take a lot of heat when you do that. So,
well, Kelly, you don't know me the way my wife does.
Okay, well, I'm going to play this. It's about 13 minutes, and we'll go out with that. And please go check it out at Sacrificing Liberty. Hold on, let me give you the exact. It's just sacrificingliberty.com. It's free on demand. I mirrored it from my phone to the television and watched 4 hours of actual history that you did not learn at school. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Cyanide, I discovered, was a plan between an agreement between Israel and the U.S. administration. When the agreement was reached, which was way back in a year before the Six-Day War in 1966, people from Israel and the American administration started planning for the war, and it involved them having a pretext for doing it. So the Liberty was sent to that part of the Eastern Mediterranean, right into the middle of the war zone, to be a target of some sort, to give America a pretext for launching a war on Egypt.
Had Terry Halbardia not gotten the SOS out and every last man was killed and Cairo was nuked, then Israel would come out looking like a good guy. Nobody would ever know the difference. But they had to kill every last one of us to make that strategy work. And they failed at that.
But people were sworn to secrecy. The naval inquiry is regarded by many as incomplete.
You asked McNamara about those questions. I'm not going to answer those.
I am not saying anything about the Liberty, period.
I like to think that really, after what happened to the USS Liberty and all the skullduggery that was going on behind the scenes, Israel had America by the scruff of the neck. Such was the need to cover up what America had got up to during the Six-Day War, that Israel was in a position to influence, could even say blackmail America into becoming the main supplier of arms and aid. And of course, it's just mushroomed ever since. Israel still depends hugely on American aid.
The Liberty is a microcosm of this much bigger problem in the Middle East. And Americans need to know what happened. The story has to be told.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
General Washington, in his farewell address to the nation, warned us about alliances with a foreign power, and at that time, America was enamored with a Marquis de Lafayette of France, who had given huge treasure trove to the fledgling American government. And there are streets of Lafayette, cities of Lafayette across America as a result of America being enamored with the French during the Revolution. Here we are enamored with another foreign government, no longer France, but another foreign government. And they, in effect, control us.
Well, we won't defeat Zionism controlling America until you accept the truth of what has happened in the past. Now, we've pretty much uncovered the liberty, but we haven't achieved justice. Nobody in Washington will accept the fact that it was a deliberate attack with an attempt to eliminate us. The Zionists are an enemy of the United States, and they've subverted the policy of the United States.
The cover-up of the USS Liberty, it was because of our involvement in the USS Liberty with Israel. I think Israel's the 51st state.
I think it's about time we stop, those of us who support, as most of us do, Israel in this body, for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel. If I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
To think that we are still providing monetary support and military support to a country that's telling us what to do. I mean, on a daily basis. It's crazy.
There are certain people that don't want anything negative about Israel to be told whatsoever, because it's offensive. Because it then flies in the face of this relationship, this holy relationship we're supposed to have with the Israelis.
Right now, President Donald Trump's commitment to Israel is sacrosanct. Congress's commitment to Israel is sacrosanct. We don't take Israel for granted. We know that this special relationship is central to our national security.
Israel and America are connected now and forever. I simply declare to be anti-Semitic is to be anti-American.
Liberty veterans have been accused numerous times of being anti-Semitic. Excuse me, but that word anti-Semitic gets thrown around a lot just as an excuse. We just want our own government to properly investigate while some of us are still alive.
That pledge is proudly honored in this Congress, where support for Israel remains ironclad and bipartisan.
Despite our differences, we're proudly united in support of America's relationship with the State of Israel.
This past December, the six of us traveled to Israel together with AIPAC's Education Foundation. And you're once again bombarded with stories about how America's divided, how Democrats and Republicans don't work together. Remember this picture, and remember that you all made it possible.
And we will fight to protect the Jewish people here in America and in the state of Israel. In America and in Israel, Am Yisrael Chai, the people Israel live. Thank you. God bless you. AIPAC, keep up the great work.
Thousands of letters I wrote to Congress, literally thousands. And all of them come back the same way, from the Navy Department, the National Security Agency, CIA, FBI, every congressman and senator I could write to, all of them come back the same. Case closed, mistaken identity. We're very sorry. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I mean, if America knew they tried to sink one of our ships deliberately.
How many human lives have been have been changed or killed protecting the Zionist state of Israel?
I mean, you know, you're killing American citizens and getting away with it. Let that sink in.
And take everything they gave us.
90% of the country doesn't know what the liberty is, was, or what happened to it. And until we can get 100 million people aware of it and energetic about it, it'll be covered up because it convicts a president of treason.
There's no question that Israel killed my shipmates and tried to kill me and wanted to kill me. And there's no question in my mind that Lyndon Baines Johnson wanted me dead. I want people to realize that. I'd love for people to truly understand the kind of person that Lyndon Johnson and his cronies were.
We were doing a nuclear loading exercise, which all the attack aircraft that carried nuclear weapons, they brought the weapons up, loaded them aboard to mate them with them, make sure that all the wiring was okay, and then took the weapons off and put them back down below. It was during that evolution when we heard that the Liberty was under attack. As soon as the Liberty was under attack, we launched our ready cap.
Still high, I'm still working it down, little power to catch it. 99, still high, I'm still working it. 65, you're being set back for a capture.
We launched, and they gave us a vector to the ship. First thing we did when we got off, go ahead and check all the weapon systems. Our radar was working, we tuned the missiles, make sure that they were all ready, and all I had to do was hit the on switch and you could fire them. So we wanted to make sure that we were ready for whatever we might come up against. As we started out, we continually said, okay, what is the threat? Where is the ship? Who are we going against? What does the enemy look like? Are we going against 10 MiGs, or is this just a one aircraft that's in the wrong place? We didn't feel that there'd be any Israelis there because they're on our side, so we didn't feel that we'd be up against them. So we were looking at the Egyptians and the Russians. So those are the two countries that had aircraft that we would be up against fighting. We continually said, okay, what is the threat? Where is the ship? How far is the ship? What is the status of the ship? What is the attack? Who's attacking it? What type of aircraft? And so on, which they did not know. This conversation went back and forth until we got the word from the Sixth Fleet to stand down and return to base. Well, we kept saying, well, is the ship okay? What we're coming back now is over. Are they okay? Do we need to do anything else? We're up here, we're on the way. They said, no, return to base, return to base. We were very discouraged, that what is going on? What levels of government are in cahoots with somebody else?
So just remember, the words we had, help is on the way. And we are all saying this. When is it coming? Who's coming? What's going to happen?
We couldn't understand why hour after hour went by and we never had a flyover and nobody came by.
It looks like we were, the things were arranged in such a way that yes, the USS Liberty would be left alone to encounter whatever happened.
For some reason, they wanted 294 Americans dead.